Chapter 1. The Unwanted Past. Eldon Terrell's phone shattered the silence at 3:47 a.m. He'd been awake anyway, drafting blueprints for the Henderson Commercial Complex, his largest project since leaving Morrison and Associates to start his own structural engineering firm. 2 years of building something real, something honest, something that belonged only to him. The nursing supervisor's voice was clinical. "Mr. Terrell? St. Vincent's Medical Center. Your wife is out of emergency surgery. We need you to sign discharge papers." "There's a mistake," Eldon said, already knowing there wasn't. "I'm not married." A pause. Paper rustling. "Sir, Carlene Tate listed you as her emergency contact, and I'm showing you as her spouse on her insurance documents. Please come to room 447. Eldon's jaw tightened. Carlene. Of course. 2 years since their divorce was finalized, and she was still pulling strings attached to his name. He should have ignored it. Should have told them to check their records. But something in the nurse's tone, a slight tremor, uncertainty, made him grab his keys. The hospital parking lot was nearly empty under flickering yellow lights. Eldon had built himself back up after Carlene. At 36, he was leaner than during their marriage, the softness replaced by disciplined routine. Early mornings at the gym, evenings reviewing structural calculations, weekends hiking the trails outside the city. No room for weakness. No room for her. Room 447 was in the East Wing. Eldon's footsteps echoed down the corridor until he stopped at the open door. Carlene lay in the bed, her auburn hair matted, left arm in a cast, bruises flowering across her collarbone. She looked smaller than he remembered, fragile in the harsh fluorescent light. Standing beside her was someone Eldon didn't recognize. A tall man in an expensive suit despite the hour, dark hair slicked back, phone pressed to his ear. "Handle it," the man was saying. "No, she's fine. Minor setback." Carlene's eyes opened. Even injured, even vulnerable, that calculating gleam remained. "Eldon," she whispered. "You came." The man turned, ending his call. His expression shifted from annoyance to evaluation. "You're the ex-husband? Who are you?" Eldon stayed in the doorway, arms crossed. "Dennis Chung. A friend." Dennis extended his hand. Eldon didn't take it. He looked at Carlene. "Why am I listed as your emergency contact?" "Because." Carlene's voice cracked convincingly. She'd always been good at that. "Because you're the only person I could trust, Eldon. I know how badly I hurt you, but..." "Cut it." Eldon's tone was flat. The nurse said spouse, not emergency contact. "Spouse." Dennis stepped between them. "Listen, Terrell, there's obviously been some confusion with the paperwork. We just need you to sign so we can get Carlene home. She's been through a traumatic experience." "What happened?" Eldon directed the question at Carlene, not Dennis. "Car accident," Carlene said quickly. "Someone ran a red light. Hit my driver's side door." Eldon studied the bruises, the cast, the way she held her ribs. Something was off. He'd investigated enough construction site accidents to recognize injury patterns. These weren't consistent with a side impact collision. A nurse appeared. Young, African-American. Her name tag read Maxine Willis, RN. "Mr. Terrell? I need to speak with you about the insurance verification." Eldon followed her to the hallway. Maxine glanced back at room 447, then lowered her voice. "Sir, I don't know your situation, but I think you should know. This is the third time Ms. Tate has been admitted in 18 months. Different injuries each time. And each time, the insurance documents list a different spouse." Eldon's blood chilled. "What? I probably shouldn't be telling you this, but..." Maxine bit her lip. "Last time, she listed a Gregory Morrison as her husband. Before that, James Chun. Both signed discharge papers. Both probably had no idea she was committing insurance fraud. Why are you telling me?" Maxine's expression hardened. "Because my little brother got caught in an insurance scam last year. Lost everything. These people are predators, Mr. Terrell, and I won't be part of it." Eldon looked back at room 447. Through the window, he could see Dennis and Carlene in urgent conversation, her injury apparently forgotten. "Don't sign anything," Maxine said. "And if I were you, I'd call a lawyer." Chapter 2. The Scheme Unravels. Raphael Liu arrived at St. Vincent's within the hour. Eldon's best friend since college, Raphael had left corporate law to start his own practice specializing in fraud cases. He was built like a boxer despite spending his days in courtrooms. Compact, powerful, always ready. You're telling me your ex-wife has been running insurance scams using fake marriage documents? Raphael scrolled through his phone, already pulling case files. And this Dennis Chung character is involved. Seems like it. Eldon leaned against the visitor room wall. They'd moved away from room 447 after Maxine's revelation. I need to know what I'm dealing with before I sign anything or engage with them. Raphael made calls. His network was extensive: paralegals, investigators, courthouse contacts who owed favors. Within 30 minutes, he had preliminary information. Dennis Chung owns Meridian Investment Solutions, Raphael reported. High-end financial consulting. Clean record, but there's chatter in certain circles about aggressive tactics. Nothing proven. He scrolled further. More interesting. Carlene has filed 4 insurance claims in the past 2 years. 2 auto accidents, 1 slip and fall at a grocery store, 1 assault at a parking garage. Total payout requests, over $200,000. Eldon's engineering mind began constructing the framework. She stages accidents, uses fake marriage documents to add legitimacy to insurance claims, then has the husband sign discharge papers to create a paper trail of spousal support. The hospitals and insurance companies don't cross-check thoroughly because it's medical emergencies. And the husbands don't realize they're committing fraud because they think they're just helping process paperwork, Raphael finished. Brilliant, if sociopathic. Question is, why you again? She already divorced you. You'd be the most likely to refuse. Eldon considered this. Maybe I wasn't supposed to be contacted. Maybe she wanted someone else listed, and there was a mix-up. Or, Raphael said slowly, maybe this is about something bigger. A commotion erupted down the hallway. Raised voices, Dennis Chung arguing with hospital administration about discharge procedures. Eldon and Raphael moved closer. Absolutely ridiculous, Dennis was saying. Miss Tate needs to rest at home. I'm prepared to pay any outstanding costs immediately. Sir, without proper insurance verification, we can't release her until we've confirmed coverage, the administrator said firmly. And there are discrepancies in the documents provided. Dennis's veneer cracked slightly. Eldon saw it, the flash of genuine anger beneath the corporate polish. What kind of discrepancies? The spouse listed doesn't match our records. We need to verify. I already told you, there was an administrative error, Dennis snapped. I'll have our attorneys contact you. Eldon stepped forward. No need. I'm Eldon Terrell, the person she fraudulently listed as her spouse. Dennis's expression went cold. Fraudulently is a strong accusation, Terrell. You'd better be careful about throwing around defamatory statements. Is it defamatory if it's true? Raphael appeared beside Eldon, handing Dennis a business card. Raphael Liu, attorney at law. My client won't be signing any documents. And we'll be filing a formal complaint with both the insurance company and local law enforcement regarding identity fraud. Dennis studied the card, then looked at Eldon with new assessment. You're making a mistake. Carlene made an error in judgment listing you. She's scared, hurt, and not thinking clearly. Walk away, and we'll handle this privately. Or, Eldon asked, or we'll have to address the matter through more complicated channels. Dennis smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Litigation can be expensive, Terrell, and time-consuming. I'd hate for your little engineering business to get caught up in a messy legal battle. Raphael laughed. Did you just threaten my client? In a hospital hallway? With witnesses? Dennis's smile vanished. He leaned close to Eldon, voice dropping. You don't know what you're involving yourself in. Carlene and I have an arrangement that goes deeper than some paperwork error. Walk away while you can. No, Eldon said simply. Something shifted in Dennis's eyes. Calculation, recalibration. Then you'll regret it. He turned and strode back toward room 447. Maxine appeared from around the corner, eyes wide. Did he just threaten you? Witnesses, Raphael said, already typing notes into his phone. Always good to have witnesses. Eldon watched Dennis disappear into Carlene's room. The pieces were connecting, but the full picture remained unclear. What was the arrangement Dennis mentioned? Why target Eldon again after 2 years? His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Eldon answered. A woman's voice, older, familiar in a way that made his skin crawl. Eldon, it's Harriet, Carlene's sister. They'd never gotten along. Harriet had always treated Eldon like he wasn't good enough for her family, despite the Deckers having nothing while Eldon built a successful career. What do you want, Harriet? I'm calling because Carlene asked me to. She needs your help. Eldon, please, just sign the papers. She made a mistake listing you. But if you don't sign, the insurance won't pay, and she can't afford the medical bills. She shouldn't have committed fraud, Eldon said. It wasn't fraud. It was a clerical error. She was disoriented from the accident. This is the third accident in 18 months, Harriet. Did you know that? Silence. Then, you always were self-righteous. Carlene said you'd react like this. Fine. Don't help. But remember, Eldon, family protects family. And you're not family anymore. The line went dead. Raphael raised an eyebrow. The sisters involved too? Apparently. Eldon's mind was racing. Harriet had always been protective of Carlene, but involving herself in insurance fraud? That required either desperation or deeper culpability. We need more information, Raphael said. I'll file the complaint first thing Monday, but in the meantime, we should figure out exactly what they're running before they can cover their tracks. Eldon nodded, but his engineer's instinct was already working, already designing a structure, not of steel and concrete, but of strategy and countermeasure. If Carlene and Dennis wanted to play games with documents and deception, Eldon would show them what real architecture looked like. Chapter 3, Blueprint for Justice. Sunday morning, Eldon sat in his downtown loft office, 3 monitors displaying different data streams. Raphael had connected him with a private investigator named Dwayne Rivera, a former insurance fraud investigator who'd gone independent after exposing corruption in his own company. Dwayne was late 40s, scarred hands and sharp eyes, someone who'd seen too much to be surprised by anything. Dennis Chung is slicker than he appears, Dwayne said, pointing at financial records on the center screen. Meridian Investment Solutions is legitimate, profitable, but there's a subsidiary, Cascade Recovery Services. Look at the formation date. Eldon leaned forward. 23 months ago, right before Carlene's first accident. Cascade Recovery specializes in helping clients navigate insurance claims. Completely legal. But here's where it gets interesting. Dwayne pulled up a network map. 4 of Cascade's clients have filed major injury claims in the past 2 years. All of them show the same pattern: suspicious accidents, complicated insurance situations, eventual settlements. And all of them have one thing in common. Carlene, Raphael said. Carlene listed as witness, emergency contact, or in one case, helpful bystander who called 911. She's embedded in every single case. Dwayne highlighted the connections. This isn't just personal insurance fraud. This is a network. Dennis provides clients through his investment firm. People struggling financially, desperate. Carlene helps them stage accidents. Cascade Recovery assists with the claims. They split the settlements. Eldon felt the familiar clarity that came with solving complex structural problems. How much are we talking? Conservative estimate? North of $1 million over 2 years. Probably closer to 1.5. Raphael whistled. That's organized fraud. That's RICO territory if we can prove coordination. We can't, Dwayne said. But here's the problem. These people are careful. The accidents are convincing. The injuries are real. They're not staging car crashes with actors. They're orchestrating real situations with deniable involvement. Proving Dennis and Carlene masterminded it requires evidence that's hard to obtain. Eldon studied the network map. His ex-wife at the center, Dennis pulling strings from above, and a dozen victims-turned accomplices spreading outward. It was elegant, in a perverse way, and it reminded him of something. Load-bearing structures, Eldon said quietly. Raphael and Dwayne looked at him. In architecture, certain elements bear the structural load. Remove them, and the building collapses. This fraud network has load-bearing elements. Eldon pointed at the screen. Dennis provides the clients. Carlene creates the accidents. Cascade processes the claims. Remove any single element. The structure fails. So we remove an element, Raphael said, catching on. Not remove. Compromise. Eldon's mind was building the plan, stress testing each component. We can't just expose them. They'll scatter, destroy evidence, flip on each other for plea deals. We need them to collapse from within. Dwayne grinned. I like where this is going. Over the next hours, they constructed the framework. Dwayne would continue investigating, building an ironclad evidence file. Raphael would prepare legal actions, ready to deploy at the precise moment. And Eldon would become the fulcrum, the unexpected element that would leverage the entire structure into self-destruction. There's one more thing, Dwayne said, pulling up a final document. I found why they targeted you again. The document was a life insurance policy. $2 million. Beneficiary, Carlene Tate. Insured, Eldon Terrell. Dated 3 months before their divorce, never canceled. She kept a policy on your life, Raphael said, voice tight with anger. If you'd signed those hospital documents, validated the fake marriage, and then something happened to you, she'd be a widow with a legitimate claim, Eldon finished. His hands had curled into fists without him realizing. Not fear. Anger. Carlene hadn't just used him for fraud. She'd kept him as a potential payday. How did she even maintain this? The premiums are being paid from an account linked to Cascade Recovery Services, Dwayne said. Which means Dennis knows about it. Which means this isn't just fraud anymore, Eldon. This is conspiracy. And with that life insurance angle, we're potentially looking at intent to harm. The room fell silent. Eldon stared at his own name on the policy document, the dollar amount, Carlene's signature on the beneficiary line. 2 years of rebuilding himself, and she'd still had hooks in him, waiting for the right moment to pull. Okay, Eldon said, voice steady despite the rage simmering beneath. Here's what we do. He outlined the plan. It was audacious, borderline illegal in places, and required perfect timing. Raphael raised objections about legal exposure. Dwayne pointed out the risks. But Eldon had learned something building skyscrapers. The tallest structures required the deepest foundations. And he was willing to dig as deep as necessary. Are you sure? Raphael asked. Once we start this, there's no backing out. And if it goes wrong, it won't. Eldon looked at his best friend. You asked me once why I stayed in the marriage as long as I did. Remember what I said? Raphael nodded. You said you were a builder. You tried to fix what was broken. I was wrong. Some things aren't broken, they're rotten from the foundation. You can't repair that. You tear it down and start fresh. Eldon stood, extending his hand. I'm done building around Carlene's destruction. Time to demolish it. They shook on it. Dwayne began making calls to his network of investigators. Raphael started drafting preliminary legal documents. And Eldon opened his laptop, creating a new file. Project, Cascade Collapse. Timeline, 2 weeks. Success criteria, complete structural failure. He began typing. Chapter 4, The Foundation Cracks. Monday morning, Eldon walked into Meridian Investment Solutions' downtown office like he owned it. The receptionist looked up, startled. I'm here to see Dennis Chung, Eldon said. Tell him Eldon Terrell is interested in discussing an investment opportunity. 10 minutes later, Dennis emerged from his private office, expression carefully neutral. Mr. Terrell, this is unexpected. I've been thinking about our conversation at the hospital, Eldon said, loud enough for nearby employees to hear. You're right. Litigation would be expensive and complicated. I'd rather discuss a mutually beneficial arrangement. Dennis's eyes narrowed, but he gestured toward his office. Of course. Please, come in. The office was all glass and steel, modern art on the walls, view overlooking the financial district. Dennis settled behind his desk, fingers steepled. What kind of arrangement did you have in mind? Carlene made a mistake listing me on her insurance documents, Eldon said, following the script he'd rehearsed. But mistakes can be corrected. For a price. You're asking for money to sign the hospital papers? I'm asking for compensation for the risk I'd be taking. Insurance fraud carries serious penalties. I'd need assurance that my involvement ends with my signature. No further complications. Dennis leaned back, studying Eldon with new interest. How much? 50,000. Cash. In exchange, I sign whatever needs signing, and I forget this entire situation ever happened. It was a gamble. Offer too little, Dennis would smell a trap. Offer too much, he'd know something was wrong. 50,000 was high enough to seem greedy, low enough to seem realistic for someone wanting quick money. Dennis tapped his desk. That's a significant sum. And a significant risk. I'm a licensed structural engineer. Getting caught in fraud could cost me my career. Eldon let frustration creep into his voice. Look, I know what Carlene did. The fake marriage, the insurance scam. I don't care. I just want to move on with my life, and I need capital to expand my business. This is transactional. You pay, I sign, we never speak again. How do I know you won't come back for more? Because unlike Carlene, I don't make a career out of scamming people. One payment, one signature, done. Eldon stood, buttoning his jacket. Think about it. My lawyer's pushing me to file complaints, go public, make noise. Or you can make this go away for 50,000. Your choice. He was at the door when Dennis spoke. Wednesday. I'll have an answer by Wednesday. Eldon nodded and left. In the elevator, he exhaled slowly. The first move was played. Now Dennis would scramble to verify Eldon's story, check his financials, confirm he was actually struggling with business expansion. Good thing Dwayne had already planted the evidence. Loan applications, vendor inquiries, all creating the illusion of a man needing cash. His phone buzzed. Raphael, courthouse contact confirms Harriet Decker filed for bankruptcy 6 months ago. Desperate for money. She's vulnerable. Eldon smiled. Time for move 2. Harriet Decker lived in a modest apartment complex on the city's east side. Eldon knocked on her door Tuesday evening, holding a bottle of wine and wearing his most disarming expression. Harriet opened the door, suspicious immediately. Eldon, what are you? I need to apologize, Eldon said. I was harsh on the phone. Carlene's your sister. You were trying to protect her. I get it. Can we talk? Harriet hesitated, then opened the door wider. 5 minutes. Her apartment was cramped, furniture old but clean. Financial struggles evident in every cost-cutting measure. Generic groceries, lights off and in used rooms, thermostat set low. I brought wine as a peace offering, Eldon said, setting the bottle on her kitchen counter. I've been thinking about what you said. About family. Carlene's not your family anymore, Harriet said, but there was less hostility than before. No, but you're hers. And she's in trouble, isn't she? Real trouble. Eldon sat at the kitchen table uninvited, forcing Harriet to join him or stand awkwardly. She sat. The insurance scam isn't working out as planned. Dennis is getting nervous. And you're caught in the middle. Harriet's face paled. I don't know what you're talking about. Harriet, I know about Cascade Recovery. I know about the staged accidents. I know you've been helping coordinate them because Carlene promised you'd get a cut. But here's the thing. Eldon leaned forward, voice sympathetic. You're not getting paid, are you? Tears welled in Harriet's eyes. She said once the big claim settled, I'd get my share. I lost my job. I'm drowning in debt. And she promised. She lied. She and Dennis have been siphoning money through offshore accounts. The big settlement you're waiting for? It already happened. They spent your share. Harriet's hand trembled. No, Carlene wouldn't. Your sister is a sociopath who's been using you the same way she used me. Eldon pulled out his phone, showing her the financial records Dwayne had uncovered. Look, see these transfers? That's money from insurance settlements. See where it goes? Accounts in Dennis's name and Carlene's name. Nothing for you. Harriet stared at the screen, tears now falling freely. I helped her. I lied to police about witnessing accidents. I signed affidavits. I'm an accomplice because she promised me she'd take care of me. I know. Eldon's voice was gentle. And when this collapses, and it will collapse, you'll take the fall while they walk away. Unless what? Unless you help me bury them first. Harriet looked up, fear and desperation warring in her expression. How? Eldon spent the next hour explaining. Harriet would continue helping Carlene and Dennis, but she'd report everything to Eldon. Every conversation, every plan, every new victim they targeted. In exchange, Raphael would negotiate immunity for her testimony when the case broke. She'd lose nothing because she had nothing left to lose. Why are you doing this? Harriet asked. Why not just report them to police now? Because reporting them gets them arrested. I want them destroyed. Eldon's expression hardened. I want Carlene to lose everything. Her freedom, her money, her reputation. I want Dennis to watch his business empire crumble. And I want them to know I'm the one who did it. Harriet wiped her eyes. She really hurt you, didn't she? She kept a $2 million life insurance policy on me. If I'd signed those hospital papers and then had an accident, she'd collect. So yeah, she hurt me. And now I'm returning the favor. Harriet extended her hand. Okay, I'm in. They shook. As Eldon left her apartment, his phone buzzed. Dwayne, Dennis just transferred $75,000 from business account to personal. He's planning to pay you. Took the bait. Eldon allowed himself a small smile. The foundation was cracking. Time to increase the pressure. Chapter 5. Engineering the Collapse. Wednesday afternoon, Dennis called. Your asking price was aggressive, but I appreciate directness. $50,000, cash, tomorrow. You sign the documents. This ends. Agreed, Eldon said. Where? My office. 4 p.m. Come alone. Eldon hung up and immediately called Raphael. It's happening. Prep the recording equipment. Thursday at 3:45 p.m., Eldon entered Meridian Investment Solutions wearing a jacket embedded with a micro camera and audio recorder. Raphael sat in a van 3 blocks away, monitoring the feed. Dennis's office again. This time, Carlene was there too, looking recovered from her injuries, the arm cast conveniently gone. She smiled when Eldon entered, that predatory smile he'd once mistaken for affection. "Hello, Eldon," she purred. "Thank you for being reasonable. This is business, Carlene. Nothing personal." "Of course." Dennis gestured to a leather briefcase on his desk. 50,000. Used bills, non-sequential. Count it if you'd like. Eldon opened the briefcase, ran his hands through the stacks of hundreds, made a show of checking the amount. "Seems right." "Excellent." Dennis slid 3 documents across the desk. "Sign these. Hospital discharge verification, insurance beneficiary confirmation, and a non-disclosure agreement. You tell no one about Carlene's hospital visit or our arrangement here." Eldon read each document carefully. They were masterfully written. The hospital verification validated the fake marriage. The beneficiary confirmation authorized insurance payments to Carlene, and the NDA ensured Eldon's silence. Signing these would make him complicit in fraud. "Perfect. One question," Eldon said, pen hovering. "Why keep the life insurance policy on me? We've been divorced 2 years. Carlene and Dennis exchanged glances. Dennis spoke. "Insurance policies are complicated to cancel. It was easier to maintain it then." "Bullshit." Eldon set the pen down. "You kept it because I was still useful. A potential future claim. Maybe an accident that could be staged, a big payout down the line. How am I doing?" The temperature in the room dropped. Carlene's smile vanished. "Eldon, you're being paranoid." "Am I?" Eldon stood, leaving the documents and signed. "Here's what I think. I think you and Dennis have been running insurance fraud for 2 years. I think you've made over $1 million. And I think you kept me on the hook as a backup plan. But now I'm making noise, becoming a problem, so you figured, pay him off, get him to sign documents that implicate him in fraud, then you have leverage to keep him quiet permanently." Dennis's expression went cold. "You're making serious accusations." "I'm stating facts." Eldon pulled out his phone, showing them a photo. Harriet at her apartment, meeting with Eldon. "Your conspirator is flipping. She's been telling me everything. The staged accidents. The offshore accounts. The victims you're still recruiting through Cascade Recovery." Carlene shot up. "You bastard. You can't." "I already did." Eldon smiled. "And here's the fun part. Every word you've spoken in this office today, recorded. Every document you just showed me, photographed. Every admission, captured." Dennis moved fast, faster than Eldon expected. His hand shot toward a desk drawer. Eldon was faster, years of construction work keeping him strong. He slammed Dennis's hand in the drawer, wrenched it open, and pulled out the revolver Dennis had been reaching for. "Really?" Eldon ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, set the gun on the desk. "You were going to shoot me? In your office? With cameras everywhere." "There are no cameras in my private office," Dennis hissed. "There are now." Eldon tapped his jacket. "Say hi to my attorney." Carlene lunged. Eldon sidestepped, letting her momentum carry her into Dennis. They stumbled, and in that moment, Eldon grabbed the briefcase with the cash and the signed documents Dennis had prepared, documents that would prove Dennis's intent to bribe. "Here's what's going to happen," Eldon said, backing toward the door. "I'm leaving with this evidence. You're going to sit here and think about how badly you've screwed up. And in 48 hours, you're both going to prison. We'll deny everything." Carlene screamed. "Our lawyers will destroy you." "Good luck with that." Eldon opened the door. "Oh, and Carlene, that life insurance policy you kept on me, I had it transferred. The beneficiary is now a children's hospital charity. You won't see a dime." He walked out, past the receptionist's startled expression, into the elevator, out to the street where Raphael waited in the van. "Got everything?" Eldon asked, climbing in. Raphael grinned, showing him the laptop screen, video and audio crystal clear. Dennis admitting to the bribe. Carlene's presence validating conspiracy. The gun. All of it. "This is enough to bury them," Raphael said. "We go to the DA, they'll have warrants within hours." "Not yet." Eldon buckled his seatbelt. "We're not done." Chapter 6. The Pressure Mounts. Dennis Chung wasn't stupid. Within 2 hours of Eldon's departure, he'd lawyered up, contacted his accountant, and begun moving money offshore. But Dwayne had anticipated this. He'd been monitoring Dennis's accounts, and the moment transfers started, he alerted authorities. Friday morning, the FBI raided Meridian Investment Solutions, white-collar crime division, armed with warrants for financial records. Dennis was pulled out in handcuffs, shouting about unlawful search and seizure while cameras captured everything. Eldon watched the news from his office, Raphael beside him. The DA moved faster than expected, Raphael said. We gave them a gift-wrapped case. RICO charges, conspiracy to commit fraud, evidence of at least 15 victims. Eldon sipped his coffee. They'd be idiots not to move fast. His phone rang. Unknown number. Eldon put it on speaker. Carlene's voice, shaking with rage. You destroyed us. You destroyed everything. You destroyed yourself, Eldon said calmly. I just documented it. We'll fight this. We'll win. And when we do, I'm coming for you, Eldon. I'll take everything you've built. With what money? Your accounts are frozen. Your co-conspirators are flipping for immunity. Harriet's testifying. And Dennis's lawyers are already negotiating to throw you under the bus to save him. Eldon let that sink in. You're alone, Carlene. Just like you left me. Silence. Then, I loved you once. No, you didn't. You loved what I could provide. Stability. Money. A clean reputation you could hide behind while you schemed. But you never loved me. And you? Her voice cracked. Did you ever love me? Eldon considered lying, then decided on truth. Yes, I loved who I thought you were. That person didn't exist. Took me a long time to accept that. So this is revenge. No, this is justice. Revenge would be making you suffer. Justice is making you face consequences. Eldon stood, looking out his office window at the city he'd helped build, structure by structure. Goodbye, Carlene. He hung up. Raphael cleared his throat. That was almost sad. Almost, Eldon agreed. But she kept a life insurance policy on me as a future payday. Hard to feel too sympathetic. The door burst open. Maxine Willis rushed in, out of breath. Turn on the news. Channel 7. Eldon grabbed the remote. The local news showed a press conference. The DA, flanked by FBI agents, announcing a major white-collar crime bust. Names scrolled. Dennis Chung, Carlene Tate, 14 other co-conspirators. Charges: RICO violations, wire fraud, conspiracy, insurance fraud totaling $1.8 million. Thanks to the cooperation of a key witness, the DA said, we've been able to dismantle an extensive fraud network operating in our city for over 2 years. This sends a message: fraud will not be tolerated. The witness wasn't named, but Eldon knew. Harriet had delivered. In exchange for immunity, she'd given prosecutors everything: recorded conversations, forged documents, victim lists, bank records. The entire rotting foundation of Carlene and Dennis's empire, exposed to daylight. Maxine hugged Eldon impulsively. You did it. You actually did it. We did it. Eldon corrected, including Raphael and the absent Dwayne in the gesture. Couldn't have happened without all of you. His phone buzzed again. This time, Dwayne. Turn on Channel 4. You'll want to see this. Channel 4 was running an interview. One of the fraud victims, an elderly woman named Ophelia Fuentes, crying as she described how she'd lost her retirement savings participating in what she thought was a legitimate insurance claim. They promised me money to pay medical bills. Instead, I lost everything and almost went to jail. More victims appeared on screen. A young father. A disabled veteran. People desperate and exploited. Eldon felt the anger return, white-hot. This wasn't just about Carlene's betrayal. These were real people, real suffering caused by her greed. We need to make sure they stay buried, Eldon said quietly. No plea deals. No reduced sentences. They burn. Raphael nodded. I'll call the DA. Make sure our evidence is ironclad for trial. But fate had other plans. Saturday morning, Eldon's phone woke him at dawn. Raphael, voice tight. Turn on the news. Now. Eldon fumbled for the remote. Breaking news. Carlene Tate found dead in apartment. Apparent suicide. The room spun. Eldon sat on the edge of his bed, watching the coverage. Pills, a note, no signs of foul play. The note's contents weren't disclosed, but sources claimed it was a confession. She killed herself, Eldon said, voice hollow. Or someone made it look that way. Raphael's tone was grim. Dennis was released on bail yesterday. Had 8 hours before Carlene died. The implication hung heavy. Had Dennis silenced his co-conspirator? Or had Carlene, facing decades in prison and complete ruin, chosen the final exit? Eldon would never know. And the realization that he felt almost nothing, no grief, no relief, just numbness, shook him more than her death. The trial continues, Raphael said. Dennis and the others still face charges. Carlene's death doesn't change that. I know. Eldon stood, moving to his window. Dawn light spilled across the city, but it feels unfinished. Justice isn't always satisfying, Raphael said gently. Sometimes the guilty escape. Sometimes the ending is messy. Eldon nodded, but the engineer in him rebelled. Structures needed to be completed properly. Loose ends created catastrophic failures. And Dennis Chung was a very dangerous loose end. Chapter 7. The Final Blueprint. Dennis Chung's bail was revoked Monday morning after prosecutors demonstrated flight risk. He was remanded to county jail to await trial. Eldon watched from the courtroom gallery, studying the man who'd threatened him, conspired with his ex-wife, destroyed so many lives. Dennis looked smaller in the orange jumpsuit, diminished, but his eyes, when they met Eldon's across the courtroom, still burned with intelligence and rage. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Eldon pushed through them to his car, where Dwayne waited. "We have a problem," Dwayne said without preamble. "Cascade Recovery Services? It's a shell company with layers of protection. Dennis structured it so that even if he goes down, the company continues operating. His partners can keep running scams." "Who are his partners?" Dwayne pulled up a file. "3 names we've confirmed: Octavio Roach, Lyman Kim, and Fritz Yang. All connected to Dennis through the investment firm. All with clean records. All complicit in the fraud." Eldon studied the photos. Octavio, corporate lawyer, mid-30s, expensive suits and dead eyes. Lyman, accountant, older, nervous energy. Fritz, tech specialist, young, arrogant expression. "They're trying to distance themselves from Dennis," Dwayne continued, claiming they were unaware of the fraud. That Carlene and Dennis operated independently. Without her alive to testify, it's harder to prove otherwise. "So they walk." Eldon's jaw tightened. "Maybe, unless we can prove they knew. But that requires evidence we don't have." Eldon was quiet for a long moment. "Then, what if we make them confess?" "How?" "By giving them what they want most." Tuesday, Eldon arranged a meeting with Octavio Roach at a downtown cafe. Octavio came alone, wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. "Mr. Terrell," Octavio said, shaking hands with a lawyer's practiced grip. "I appreciate you reaching out. I understand you've been through a difficult situation with Miss Tate." "I want it to end," Eldon said, playing the exhausted victim. "The trial, the media attention, all of it. I'm a private person. This is destroying my business." Octavio's eyes gleamed. "I can understand that. Perhaps we can find a mutually beneficial solution. Dennis is going to prison. That's certain. But the others, Lyman, Fritz, you. There's still ambiguity about your involvement." Eldon leaned forward. "I have evidence that could clarify that ambiguity. Testimony from Harriet Decker. Documents from Carlene's personal files. Communications between all of you." Octavio's expression remained neutral, but Eldon saw the micro-tell, a slight tension in his jaw. "What exactly are you proposing?" "I'm proposing I forget I have that evidence. In exchange, you and your partners shut down Cascade Recovery permanently, return all fraudulent gains to victims, and never contact me again." "That's a generous offer." Octavio sipped his coffee. "But it raises questions. Why would you let us walk when you clearly want revenge?" "Not revenge. Peace." Eldon met his eyes. "Carlene's dead. Dennis is finished. I've won. Dragging this out, testifying in more trials, living with this hanging over me for years. What's the point? I want my life back." Octavio considered this. "If we were to accept such an arrangement, we'd need assurances. Contracts. Legal protection against future prosecution. Of course, my attorney can draft something." Eldon pulled out his phone. "But I need to know, are Lyman and Fritz on board? This only works if all 3 of you agree." "I'll speak with them." Octavio stood. "We'll be in touch." He left. Eldon waited exactly 30 seconds. Then Raphael appeared from a back table, laptop open. "Got it," Raphael said, showing Eldon the screen. "The cafe's Wi-Fi, which Octavio had just used to send an encrypted message to Lyman and Fritz, had been compromised by Dwayne's tech. The message read, "Terrell offering deal. Has evidence on all of us. Meeting tonight, 9 p.m., warehouse on 5th. Discuss options." "They're going to meet," Eldon said. "And they're going to discuss how to silence me permanently." "You're sure?" Eldon nodded. "Men like Octavio don't negotiate. They eliminate problems. I just made myself a problem they think they can solve. This is dangerous, Eldon. If they're planning violence, then we'll be ready." Eldon's expression was cold, calculated. "I've been building toward this. Every move, every piece of evidence, every conversation, it's all been setting up this moment. They think I'm offering them an escape. I'm actually offering them a trap." Raphael looked at his friend with something approaching awe. "You're terrifying when you plan like this." "I learned from the best architects," Eldon said. "The ones who don't just build up, they know when to demolish." Chapter 8. Structural Failure. The warehouse on 5th Street was one of Eldon's properties, an old structure he'd purchased for renovation, currently empty and isolated. Perfect. 9 p.m., Eldon arrived alone as instructed. The warehouse's interior was dark, illuminated only by work lights he'd set up earlier. Octavio, Lyman, and Fritz waited in the center, positioned carefully. "Gentlemen," Eldon said, voice echoing in the vast space. "Thank you for coming." "Cut the pleasantries," Octavio said. "You made a proposal. We have a counter-proposal." "I'm listening." Fritz stepped forward, pulling a gun from his jacket. "Our counter-proposal is you give us the evidence, delete all copies, and disappear. Tonight. Leave the city. We'll compensate you for your silence. $500,000. Eldon didn't flinch. "And if I refuse?" "Then we solve this problem permanently." Lyman's voice shook, but he held a gun too. "We're not going to prison because of you." "Interesting." Eldon looked at each of them calmly. "So the plan is, murder me. Make it look like suicide or an accident, and hope the evidence dies with me. Did I miss anything?" "You're too calm," Octavio observed. "Why are you too calm?" "Because this isn't a negotiation." Eldon pulled out his phone, pressed a button. "This is a confession." The warehouse's loading dock doors exploded inward. FBI tactical team, weapons drawn, flooded the space. Octavio, Fritz, and Lyman were on the ground in seconds, hands zip-tied, rights red. Standing behind the agents was the DA, holding a tablet showing live footage of the entire conversation. Conspiracy to commit murder. Obstruction of justice. Illegal weapons possession. "Gentlemen, you just made my case beautifully." Octavio, face pressed against concrete, looked at Eldon with pure hatred. "You set us up." "I engineered your collapse," Eldon corrected. "There's a difference. You collapsed yourself. I just provided the structural stress." As they were dragged away, Eldon turned to the DA. "Everything recorded? Every word. The gun threats, the admission of conspiracy, the bribery attempt. Combined with your previous evidence, we can connect them directly to the fraud network." The DA extended her hand. "Mr. Terrell, on behalf of the victims, thank you." Eldon shook her hand, but felt no triumph. Only exhaustion. Raphael appeared, along with Dwayne. "It's over," Raphael said quietly. "It's actually over." "Not yet," Eldon said. "There's one more thing." Wednesday, Eldon visited Harriet Decker. She opened the door, eyes red from crying. "I heard about the arrests," Harriet said. "It's all over the news." "You did the right thing testifying," Eldon said. "I know it wasn't easy. Carlene's dead because of me." Harriet's voice broke. "She was my sister, and I betrayed her." "She was dead the moment she started the fraud," Eldon said gently. "You didn't betray her. You stopped being complicit in destroying other people's lives. There's a difference." Harriet wiped her eyes. "What happens to me now?" The DA honored the immunity deal. "You won't face charges." "But," Eldon pulled an envelope from his jacket. "You need a fresh start. This is a check for $20,000. Enough to get out of debt, maybe relocate, start over." Harriet stared at the envelope. "Why would you help me?" "Because you helped stop them when it mattered. Because you were a victim too, in your own way. And because..." Eldon paused. "Because holding on to anger doesn't rebuild anything. I learned that the hard way." Harriet took the envelope with shaking hands. "Thank you." As Eldon left, she called after him. "Do you think Carlene really killed herself? Or did Dennis?" Eldon stopped, considered lying, then chose truth. "I don't know, and I don't think I ever will." But either way, she's gone. And we're still here. We get to choose what we do with that. Chapter 9, Reconstruction. 3 months later, Eldon stood in front of the Henderson Commercial Complex, his largest project, finally completed. 20 stories of glass and steel, structural integrity perfect, every calculation proven sound. It was beautiful. Raphael joined him, holding 2 coffees. Heard the verdict came through. Dennis got 23 years. Octavio, 15. Lyman and Fritz, 12 each. Eldon accepted the coffee. All assets seized, distributed to victims. Cascade Recovery Services dissolved. Complete structural failure, Raphael said with a slight smile. As designed. Eldon looked at his building. You know what's weird? I thought I'd feel more. Satisfaction, vindication, something. But mostly I just feel tired. Revenge is exhausting, Raphael observed. Even when it's justified. It wasn't revenge. It was justice, I know. But Eldon. Raphael turned to face his friend. It was also revenge. And that's okay. They hurt you. Used you. Tried to destroy you. You fought back. You won. It's okay to call it what it was. Eldon was quiet. Then, yeah. Okay. It was revenge. And it felt good watching them collapse. There we go. Honesty. They drank their coffee in comfortable silence. A woman approached, Maxine Willis, the nurse who'd first warned Eldon about the fraud. Mr. Terrell? Sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to thank you. My brother, the one I told you about, who got caught in an insurance scam. He's getting restitution from the seized assets. It's not everything, but it's enough to start rebuilding. I'm glad, Eldon said sincerely. Maxine hesitated. Then, are you okay? I mean really okay? You went through hell. Eldon looked at his building again. I'm better than I was. Still working on being okay. But I'm building toward it. After Maxine left, Raphael checked his watch. I have to get to court. But hey, we're still on for Friday. You, me, Dwayne, celebrating the end of all this. Wouldn't miss it. Eldon shook his friend's hand. Thanks, Raphael. For everything. That's what brothers do. Alone, Eldon walked into his completed building. The lobby was pristine, the elevator smooth, the structure solid. He rode to the top floor, stepped out onto the observation deck still under construction. From here, he could see the entire city. The life he'd built, the business he'd grown, the future he was constructing piece by piece. His phone buzzed. Email notification. A consulting firm wanted to hire him for a major project, a hospital complex. Good pay, creative freedom, chance to make something meaningful. Eldon smiled and replied, interested. Let's talk. Below, the city continued. Above, the sky stretched infinite. And here, on this structure he'd designed and built, Eldon Terrell stood firm. He'd been broken down to his foundation and rebuilt himself stronger. He'd faced his past and demolished it. He'd turned their trap into their tomb. The engineer understood. Some structures needed to be torn down completely before you could build something better. He'd done the demolition. Now came the reconstruction. And this time, he was building only for himself. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for your time. If you enjoy this story, please subscribe to this channel. Click on the video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.